Hey everyone, this is Mr. Westergaard coming to you from Redwood Nation, and today my guest and I will be doing a weapons review on the Model 10A shotgun. To discuss with me, I have xsnakedoc, someone who has been with Redwood Nation from the beginning. Thanks for being here today.
What is that?
Battlefield just released its major update on December 13th. They actually did a pretty big overhaul. A lot of the stuff that people had issues with, they upgraded the shotguns, they messed with the medic syringe, they dealt with some of the issues with the planes, artillery, all sorts of stuff. So one of the downsides was I had made some of my footage and it was of the previous update, so I had to reshoot more footage so everything was more current. I didn't want to show stuff that was outdated because on the A10 specifically they did nerf some of the range, especially on the Hunter, so I didn't want to have to show that and have it not be accurate. So anywho's, everything that we're going to be talking about now is basically gameplay that we've seen up to date right now.
Yeah, I feel like with the update, with the shotguns, you never see that big of a difference. I mean, it's about your gameplay, it's about playing the map correctly. I mean, you see a little bit difference in the range specifically. If you're at short range, the shotguns have stopping power. That's just the way it is.
Right. I don't think this update really is going to affect your game, how you play with the shotgun.
Exactly.
It's not such a drastic move where it's like, well, now instead of being out in the open more often, I have to conceal myself or run through buildings more instead of running through alleyways. Mm-hmm. It's pretty subtle. I think it's well needed.
But what you see is now when you got to be smart with the shotgun, but the difference in the range, it changes your gameplay because every once in a while you get caught out in the open. Yeah. That's just the way it is, and you need to make those long-range shots and need your shotgun to come through for you. And I think that's where you fall a little bit short with the Model 10.
Right, and that's something that I think was needed though. Because before this update, the 10A was just ridiculous, especially in the Hunter Edition. It was just, you were getting killed from ridiculous ranges in one shot. And it's just a shotgun that just needs to be ranged in a little bit more. It needs to be more focused.
And I think we'll get there, but I think that's what filled the gap was the slug. And I feel like that does kind of fill that gap and give you a little bit more firepower at range to help you in those situations.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't think the slug is a great intermediate. I have not had great success with it. But before we get too into our opinions on just the whole basis thing, let's cover the first edition of the 10A that you can get, which is going to be your factory. Pretty solid shotgun. I mean, it's kind of a classical shotgun. It doesn't have a ton of range, but anyone within 10 meters is going to be just about a one-hit kill. Yeah,
if you find yourself in a building, it's extremely effective. I mean, that's what you expect your shotgun to do, is put people down in tight corners. Little disappointing thing for me is I got used to using the back bore, and we'll do that weapon separately, but you have to do a little bit of cross-class comparison, and the back bore just shoots so quickly. You can get a pump and get so many rounds down range. You miss one time with a Model 10 and you might find yourself in a sticky situation.
Right, yeah, it definitely takes another second or two to pull off another round.
You can tell the difference, though, between the Model 10 and the back bore. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Model 10 definitely has more stopping power than the back bore. Sometimes even at close range takes 2 shots with the back bore, and the Model 10 will put them down right away.
Yeah, so, I mean, for the most part, the factory, if anyone's just looking for a pretty classical shotgun, if you use the backboard and you've had issues with it, if you just think that you're not getting kills, if you're having to put too many rounds into guys, the Model 10 factory is definitely the way to go. For the most part, like I said, anything within 10 meters is going to be a one-hit kill.
I agree with that.
I don't have too many gripes. Obviously, once you start trying to extend the range, especially now since the nerf, I didn't see a huge difference between the Model 10 factory before this update and now after the update. It seems to be pretty similar. I think Battlefield was mainly focusing on adjusting maybe the Hunter, which would be a good segue to just talk about the Hunter. Mm-hmm. I know you don't have a ton of experience with it, but I know when I first started playing, if you watch a lot of guys' videos and you're seeing which weapons are the most effective to use for every class, for the assault class, it was the Model 10A Hunter. That thing was phenomenal. It didn't shoot, like we said, as fast as like the backboard did, but it didn't need to. You were putting guys down from 20, 25 meters in one hit. And it was pretty insane. So I'm glad to see they kind of ranged that in a little bit. I could tell a difference between the update now. I wasn't getting the same kills that I thought I would be getting with the Hunter before. But now that it's got a little bit of a nerf, the stats aren't as ridiculous. I think it's still going to do all right.
And that's appropriate. Like you mentioned, I've mainly used the factory or the slug edition. But there were times early in this game before the update that I couldn't believe how far away I was getting killed by the Hunter.
Yeah, it was a little overboard. especially if you're using a class, and this is another update they did bring in, but even like with the LMGs, is when you have an LMG and you see a guy at 25, maybe 30 meters out, and you're losing to a shotgun at that range.
That should be your sweet spot as a support. I mean, you don't want to get too long range or too close range. You catch somebody at that medium distance, that should be a guaranteed kill.
Yeah. And that wasn't, before this nerf, that really wasn't an opportunity because the Model 10A Hunter was just too good. It was too good. So, we'll talk about the slug now, which is something that I have a huge gripe with.
Yeah, you and I debate on this one.
It's not, very two different play styles. We both typically do relatively well in Battlefield. Nothing ridiculous, but our play styles are very different, and when I use the slug, I have a huge issue that I guess you don't suffer from.
No, I mean, I do have to interject that shotgun has always been my favorite gun, so I tend to be successful with them. I've had a great time playing with the slug. I mean, it has its moments, its inconsistencies at range, and even at moderate range, left to right, up and down. The drop is hard to get down. But if you are accurate enough and you play swiftly and get shots on target, it'll do what you need it to do.
Yeah, that's maybe where I was suffering, is maybe my accuracy isn't quite as tuned in, because I was having a lot of issues where I felt like my red dot, which was the reticule that you get with the slug, is it's the only shotgun that you have that's going to have an optical sight. I was having some issues. I used the dot. Maybe other people use the circle or the beam, and maybe they're more successful with it. I didn't give it a ton of trial and error. I just run with the dot. But there were times where I could have swore that it was right on the shoulder, and I wasn't getting hits. I was getting hits. I felt like I couldn't guess the bullet drop on it. I really struggled getting footage for that weapon. It was a pain.
Yeah, no, I was successful with it, but I definitely share some of those opinions with you, because there were times that I would see a sniper, a scout that wasn't really even looking at me, and I had a good broad view of his torso, and I felt like I was putting rounds right on him, and I was missing, or I'd hit once and then I'd shoot right in the same spot and it would miss.
I almost felt like I was better off just trying to hip fire guys.
I did have some success putting people down with the hip fire too, which I don't recommend with the slug. That's usually counterintuitive. You're really playing the odds by playing the hip fire game, but it did work out for me.
Yeah, no, that was almost my recommendation for people who for whatever reason want to use the slug. They want to give it a try. If you're struggling with it with your accuracy, if you feel like it's just not there, I was almost better off just trying to hip fire guys. It's a pretty small hip fire reticle for the slug.
No, I agree. Your crossfires are quite tiny.
Yeah, the crosshairs are right there, and that's whether you're standing, crouching, or if you're prone. It's all pretty well collected. And I was having decent enough luck for just shooting one round down at a guy, whether he was running or whatever. I mean, you didn't have to lead on him too much. Which maybe is another issue I was having with the slug.
What was that?
I didn't try and lead with it at all. I don't know if I was shooting at moving targets and I didn't give him enough lead, or...
Yeah, I mean, you would like to think with a big, heavy bullet like that, it's gonna move a little slower, but...
Yeah. Well, for the most part, that's the three different shotguns. What would be your recommendation out of the three? If you were going to use one, depends on what map you're playing, or do you think it depends on a play style?
Well, I mean, with the shotguns, again, like I said, it depends on your playstyle. You got to be smart. I think if you're really going to be primarily in buildings, I would stay away from the slug. I would go with the factory or the hunter, just because you're not going to be getting yourself in bad situations out in space. But the slug also has good versatility. That we have good hip fire, it's effective in buildings, and it can help you get out of those situations where you find yourself at a distance with somebody. If you're accurate, I would say use that slug. For a standard player, I'd probably recommend a factory or a hunter, though.
Yeah, I agree. I think if I was going to be running mainly in buildings, then I would probably stick with the factory, actually. I just felt like I had better luck with just direct, brutal stopping power than I did with the hunter. So if you're going to be running through buildings, you're just going to be pretty consistent with just close quarters only, then I think the factory is going to be your best bet. If you're looking for something with a little more range, I'd almost say like more of a lone wolf player, someone who's not really just staying in buildings, they're just kind of navigating through the whole map, then I would definitely go with the hunter. And if you want to have a terrible game and you want to get frustrated, then use the slug. And that's going to wrap up this weapon review on the Model 10A shotgun. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, would greatly appreciate some subscriptions. Shout out to xsnakedoc for joining me today. This is Mr. Westergaard from Redwood Nation, and we are Poppin' Smoke.